Good evening. Tonight is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for May 14, 2012. Before we start with the agenda, I'd like to remind everyone, if you plan on speaking either before, excuse me, in favor or against a petition, that you please sign in at the podium with your name and address, and also address the board with your name and address. Thank you. Our first petition before us is under continuances, and this is for a special permit under signs. The applicant is Kevin Wong. The property is located at 101 Lakeview Avenue. The petition was to install new eternally illuminated signage, one projecting sign for a new restaurant pursuant to Section 6.3 of the zoning ordinance. I've been handed a communication for Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong has asked for a continuance. He's still working with a couple of different companies, and I know the last time he was in here, this board pretty much emphasized with him that he tried to get some good set of plans. I know there's some of the abutters that are here tonight. I'll let you speak if you have anything new, but sorry you had to come down, but we did receive communication from him. So as far as continuance, should we move it out for the next meeting, Joe, or have you had any other information from Mr. Wong?
No, I think the next meeting would be fine. From the bit I have talked to Mr. Wong about it, I think the additional 2 weeks would be adequate.
Okay.
May the 31st?
That's correct, because of the holiday. It's on a Thursday.
So, Mr. Clerk, we're going to have a continuance, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion in ZB 2012-10, a special permit signs on 101 Lakeview for a continuance to our next meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Continued to May 31st.
Mr. Belanger?
Continue till May 31st.
Mr. Ahern?
Continue to May 31st.
Mr. McCarthy?
Continue to May 31st.
Mr. Perrin?
Continue to May 31st.
Okay, so this will be continued to May 31st and will not be publicized. Next matter before us is ZB 2012-12. This is a special permit and variance. The applicant is Robert Grenier. The property is located at 1088 Gorham Street, and the petition is to open a fitness training coaching facility while reducing parking requirements pursuant to Article 12, Table of Uses of the Zoning Code. Is Mr. Grenier here, please?
Present.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good. Want to tell us about your project?
All right. Well, I guess first question is, has anyone here heard of CrossFit before?
Well, take a look at me. Can't you tell?
All right. So I think that's probably why we're here in the first place. But essentially, I think the big discrepancy here is what I'm doing and what a classical gym is. So to clarify everything, I think with especially in regards to the parking issue, what it really is a one-on-one personal training aspect and small group classes. So it's not a facility where people are going to be coming and going as they please. It's not going to be something where there's 3,000 members. More or less, we're looking at the class schedule at this point, tentatively being Monday through Friday, class at 6 a.m., class at 9 a.m., class at noon, and class at 6 p.m. So any issue in terms of an overflow of people, nothing like that, it would not be an issue. And then in between those times would be one-on-one basis. So again, not looking at a large number of people.
So you're talking about just strictly one-on-one so you're meeting four times a day?
Most of the time is one-on-one, and then you also are going to have small group classes where on average you're going to, especially in the beginning, 2 to 8 people.
Yep.
And really just working in that community. So I think, and that's part of the other part of it that I really want to bring to the city is that community aspect of it. For example, I was with CrossFit Nashua last weekend, and we did a charity event for the Humane Society, which raised over $1,000 just for no good reason. And just adding things like that. Really, for me personally, I played hockey for Lowell High. I'd really like to set up some type of program with the athletics department there teaching kids on proper ways of weightlifting because they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. A lot of them are getting hurt. And you also have the fact that this is a national brand, which has taken me a good amount of time to get set up in Lowell. It's on ESPN last year. It's becoming more and more popular, and it's just something I think is also just going to be a big beneficial area to that area, especially in a building that's been vacant for 10 years.
Yep. So this is, you're actually your first time starting out with this type of business?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm currently working as a personal trainer at the Club Fitness downtown Lowell right now.
Yep. Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
That's really the short and sweet of it.
Okay. So pretty much what I heard was 4 classes per day, was that, okay?
Currently, yes.
Yeah. And do you see that expanding?
I mean,
Or
obviously,
maybe I should ask you, I
I
mean,
would
hours
hope for
of,
it to expand.
hours of operation, I mean, is it a 9 to 5, or do you stagger it based on your classes?
I would love for it to be 9 to 5, but it's going to be more along the lines of probably 6 or 5 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay,
But the bulk of that would be in those time blocks.
yeah. And are you on site during all those
Yeah,
hours?
I would be the only employee. Eventually, I'd like to obviously hire some other additional trainers to take some of the load off of me. But in terms of overall mass of employees, it wouldn't be a great deal.
Okay. So I guess the expectation, I'll say the expectation would be if it's going to be kind of a one-on-one training, if somebody's coming by vehicle, you'd probably have up to, 5 or 6 cars maybe at one time, or you could only have 1 car there. I guess if you had people in the neighborhood that actually decided to get into it, they'd probably be walking to your sessions.
Be a good thing.
Yeah. Do you have any feel for that? People tend to travel to come to the training that you provide?
You will have, you will draw from surrounding areas. It's going to be a mix. There's really no one way to define it. It will be people from different areas. I've already had a lot of interest from people both in that immediate community and in surrounding.
How many days a week are you planning on conducting this?
Monday through Saturday.
Okay,
But Saturday would be just in the morning.
just the morning, okay. Okay. Was the petitioner provided comments from the city?
Yes, the comments were sent out to Mr. Grenier and the owner.
Okay. Did you have any comments in regards to what we received from the city regarding the project? Okay,
No comments.
okay. All right, if you don't have anything else at this point, I'm going to open it up to the public. Okay, thank you, sir. And before I open it up to the public, we did receive a communication from Peter Acela. I won't read the whole letter, but basically he's worked with you, and he would like to be cast as in favor of the project. And so is there anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor?
My name is Kaylee LaVenture, 248 Acropolis Road. I am a client of Bob's. I started with him, and like many 25-year-old women, had some weight issues myself, cholesterol issues that ran in the family. I've since started doing CrossFit with Bob, and I've continued on my own as well. And as a resident of Lowell, there isn't anything like this around here, and I've inspired other people to want to get involved in CrossFit as well, and my friends are local as well, and, this, I think, would be a really good opportunity for people. I even have people my mom's age, 55, who want to get their life together, see change, and it's a positive thing. It's definitely not a negative thing, and I think this would be a really good opportunity for this city and the people of the city.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? Favor, hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition. Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Going to open up to the board. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions regarding the parking table that's on one of the plans that's submitted, site layout plans that were submitted for the entire parcel. I don't see, so you're asking for a change, 29 spaces would be typically required, and you're asking for it to be 7 spaces. And in that parking table, I think there's something that alludes to 7 spaces for light industrial, so it would be the light industrial piece that would be modified to the CrossFit use, is that correct?
I believe that that's what it's currently listed as, is light industrial. And that's hence so there, I guess you guys have put mine in the classification of recreational indoor use, which required the special permit to be basically operating out of that space.
Okay.
Was that your question?
I think I'm understanding it correctly. I just want to be sure that I'm referencing the right piece here
okay.
in the previous parking table that was approved. So this right now is a fitness facility that you're talking about. And when I think of fitness facility, I think of gym. And when I think of gym, I think of a lot of people using equipment all hours of the day. So this is a lot different than that.
Yes.
And 7 spaces is enough for 6,000 square feet.
Well, I think it's more about 5,500 square feet, but again, the difference that we're looking at here, there's no mirrors, there's no machines, there's none of that. So the whole aspect of your normal gym is out the window. It's using a barbell, it's doing Olympic-style weightlifting, it's doing gymnastics. So none of that is really needed. The other side of that, people don't know how to do this stuff, and they have to be coached. So there's no way you could just throw people in a facility like that and say, have at it, and hence the reason for it being a training-type facility versus a gym.
It seems like a lot of square footage still.
We need room to play.
I mean, a lot of room, a lot of room.
I honestly, I've looked across the city for a long time, finding the right space that needs to be a concrete floor, because you have a weight that'll fall. You need a place that's going to need to be high enough ceiling to hang gymnastics rings, to do all kinds of other stuff. And this is the only place that fit the bill. The only issue was just the parking issue, which would essentially take away from everyone else, and it just wouldn't work for everybody. And I just don't need that many spaces. So it just ended up being that would work with less space.
It sounds like it's a good fit. I'm a little apprehensive about the parking layout in general, because you're basically pulling right off of the street. There's no real control there for the way, but it's already been approved, so that's not your issue. Joe, I just have a couple questions maybe you could help me with here. So if we grant this, is it for a retail use or a gym use? And then if things change in the future, can a gym go in and then work with only 7 parking spaces?
So to answer your question a bit, so as you saw on the plan before, the, I guess, concept for the redevelopment of the site was that back end of the property was going to be designed for light industrial. It turns out Mr. Grenier is interested in the property, and where his particular use fit in our zoning code was the indoor recreational space, which is typically where a gym is put in terms of our zoning code. So that's what required it to be 29 parking spaces as opposed to 7 parking spaces for a light industrial use. In terms of the variance being asked for, the board does have the capability to condition the variance so that the variance could go away if the use was ever to leave the property. So Mr. Grenier needed to expand or find another building for whatever reason, it could be conditioned so that the next use would have to adhere to their own parking requirements as opposed to just getting a blanket variance for 7 spaces no matter what its use was.
Sounds like a good idea. Okay, thank you. I think I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think I have the same concerns. I think it's a good project over there. I think it'll be a good space for you. It's just, it is a big space for 7 parking spaces. I know some of the CrossFit gyms or some of the similar type of gyms in the area have a pretty good following. They get a lot of members. I don't know that yours well enough to know that it's a differentiation. So I guess my question would be, at your current location at the club, what's the size of those classes now as far as attendance?
I do only just small groups, so either 1 to 2 people at a time.
Okay,
So this would be a different setup.
okay. I've attended other ones, and they have, 40, 50 people in some of them. I mean, it's a marginally bigger space, I think. They do have the parking and stuff like that, so that's not the intent, I guess, is,
I mean, I don't know what the future would hold, I guess, but in terms of now, that would be sufficient. Obviously, I would want to grow, and that means adding more class times, so you're spreading out those groups. I mean, having 40 people that want to come into the class, I guess would be a good problem at that point.
right.
But right now, I don't see that happening.
Okay. I mean, it just becomes a concern at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday or whenever the class may be, there's school coming and
Yeah.
going and things of that nature as well to be concerned about. And then parking would be an issue. That's a main thoroughway through the city, and there's nowhere really else to park there other than stealing somebody else's space for the school. So those are just my thoughts on it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have one quick note. I do think it's a great project that building is being built up. It's an entranceway to the city, and, I do commend you from trying to move your business and increase your volume. Roughly, could you just re-advise me on what the hours were going to be?
Currently, looking at tentative, Monday through Friday would be a class at 6 a.m., 9 a.m., noontime, and 6 p.m., and then Saturday at 8 a.m. In between those times would be the one-on-one personal training clients.
And presently, you're the only employee of this company.
Correct.
Is there anybody else that you have as a subcontractor coming in to help out on occasion?
At this point, no. No, right now it's just me.
And it's going to generally be a one-on-one session, and if the future holds that you expand, then
Yeah, at that point, I would probably look to hire, obviously, another 1 or 2 trainers to take some of the burden off of myself.
do you drive to work or do you run?
Depends on if it's raining.
Okay. So you'll be taking up one space continually? Okay, that's all I have.
Yep.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. As a whole, I do support the project. I think it's a benefit for the neighborhood as well as city residents. But I do see a potential in the future that, this could get popular. And in all honesty, I hope your business succeeds and you do well. That's why we're here to help you. But Joe, quick question to you. Is there potential of any other retail going in the plaza at all at this point? We know Rosenblum's is there. Anything else on the burner at this time?
From my conversations with the owner, I know he's intending to open up sort of like a superette in the front. So Rosenblum's actually shift to a different portion of the building, and that grocery store superette type of use would now be in the front. I guess in terms of the rest of the plaza, I guess it could be open for additional retail or light industrial use as it was intended originally. As far as that's the only current businesses that I know of at this point.
Okay, super. Because I do frequent Rosenblum's, for supplies for my business, and there is ample parking mornings and afternoons there, I must say. And I'm familiar. I'm an everyday gym guy like yourself, and like Dennis alluded to, most gyms in the cities get very, very busy, and you're a different animal. I understand your concept and what you're doing. It's more one-on-one. But, what I'd like to do if this does get approved is, have a 6-month review from opening to monitor the parking, because we don't know what's going to come in there in the future. We want it occupied, most certainly, but I think we need to be a little more, if it's 2, 3 more retail-oriented business, then we could be in for a mess up there. So I do support it. I wish you the best in your new business, and I would like to call a variance in if Mr. Grenier does leave the property. I'd like to see the new business come back in front of this board, in all honesty, to keep an eye up there. But I do support it, but I would like a 6-month to a year review just to keep an eye and see what's going on up there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually familiar with CrossFit. My brother participates in it as a member in Oregon and has made a positive impact in his life, so I'm excited that you're coming to Lowell. I did have a question, since I'm not familiar with CrossFit. Do members stay beyond their class or beyond their one-on-one training?
To just hang out, or just, I guess it's potential to happen, but more than likely it's come in and then and then leave and go home.
Okay, thank you. I do support a variance or a condition on this variance, so if the use changes, that we re-review this, because that is limited parking spaces. I did have a question, Joe, for staff recommendations regarding the curb protection by the stairs and the administrative review. Would that be applicable to the applicant or the property owner? Because I did agree with them. I just didn't know if it's something we could fit into this application today.
Sure. For the administrative review, that could be the applicant here currently, Mr. Grenier, representing himself again for administrative review, or it could be the property owner, whichever one felt more comfortable, I guess, kind of reviewing the project as a whole. In terms of the curb stops, that was referring, as you saw, to the stairs and couple different units within the property where there really isn't any delineation between the parking space and the stairs themselves. So anybody who's pulling in, if they were coming in too quickly, could actually end up going right into the stairs. So that's where the curb stop recommendation was coming from. So it would just be in front of the spaces where the stairs are at the different units, not across all spaces in the lot.
Right. Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Well, I guess I'll just mention a couple other things. We received communication from the landlord dated April 11th, where he explains that you'll be occupying 5,800 square feet. And that, you know, he's, or they are in approval for the 7 parking spots. Because one thing I was thinking about was if the business really takes off and he has other tenants in there and then people start fighting for spots, which would be great, but it sounds like that the landlord is on your side as far as the number of spaces that you're asking for.
Correct.
So I think that bodes well. I think the business that you're bringing in, I see it fitting for the special permit. I don't see it being disruptive in nature to the environment up there or the business that's currently trying to be conducive. Regarding the 7 parking spots that you're looking for the variance, I believe you meet the requirements for that. I know I think Joe talked about this, and in the write-up, I heard a couple of things from the board members, but one of the conditions, I would say, if this is approved, is in regards to your business that you're bringing in there, excuse me, and if that business was to change that type of use, then the parking variance that you're being approved for tonight will be removed if another new business comes in there. Now, in saying that, Joe, if another similar type business replaces this current business, does that transfer at all because of the type of use, or is this particular petition only falls with this petition?
I'd have to look into it a little bit further. I would guess if it was the same use that it might actually hold for that new use. But if it changed to a different use, such as a restaurant that falls into a different category in our zoning code, then the variance, if the board placed a condition on of approval, could be removed, so that it would then have to come to the board for any relief that it might need.
Okay. So one condition, Mr. Clerk, would be that the variance shall become void should the proposed use change. The second condition, I believe I heard from a couple of board members, somebody wants to correct me, they were asking for administrative review. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I'd like to see what 6 months from receiving occupancy certificate, I mean, not from today, obviously, there's work to be done, but from opening or receiving occupancy certificate, we have administrative review in 6 months, just to keep an eye, because due to the potential additional retail that may go in there, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Any other comments regarding the administrative review? Okay. Do you... Any other comments from the board members before we move on this? Okay.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see if we could add to the condition language that specifically calls out that it wouldn't be used as a recreational facility, but how is the use of a gym labeled?
It's classified as indoor recreational facility.
that we specifically say that if the condition is granted and the use of an indoor recreation facility is not allowed with this use? Only because it's so close to a gym that
Whatever works.
I want to be clear that we're not going to be looking at 40 parking spaces or 29. Okay.
Okay. You okay with that?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Okay, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion under ZB 2012-12 on a special permit. Expanded retail space. Make a motion to approve a variance for parking dimensions for 7 parking spots at 1088 Gorham Street with the following conditions. 1, the variance upon 6-month review of occupancy permit be reviewed by this board. Second, the variance shall become void if the proposed condition set forth tonight should change in the future. And third, the business shall not be used inclusive as an indoor recreational facility or gymnasium.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved with conditions?
Mr. Perrin?
Approved with conditions.
Okay, Mr. Rennie, are you
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there should actually be a second motion as well for the special
for
permit.
the, I'm sorry. Yeah, so did that fulfill the special permit?
Well, that was for the, Mr. Perrin said that was for the variance, so there should be a motion for the special permit.
Right, so we need a motion for the special permit.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, ZBA 2012-12 at 1088 Gorham Street for a special permit.
Do I have a second?
A second?
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved?
Mr. Perrin?
Approved.
Okay, Mr. Grenier, for a second time, you've been approved. Wish you the best of luck with the venture.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Good luck.
thank you. Okay, our next matter before us is under new business. This is ZB 2012-17. The petition is a special permit under telecommunications. The applicant is Sprint Spectrum LP, property located at 295 Farnham Avenue. And the petition is to replace antennas, remote radio heads, and base equipment to an existing telecommunications array pursuant to section 7.6 and 11.3 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is David R. Shambo. I'm 14 Hollywood Avenue, Narragansett, Rhode Island. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Some of you may remember me, I was here not too long ago for another site. But I'll reiterate, Sprint is looking to upgrade their system across the country. We're working in this particular area, replacing existing antennas with new upgraded antennas that can handle more capacity, along with the base equipment. We are doing what we can to not involve new sites and build new locations, but enhance the system that we have and the locations that we have in place. This particular site at the hospital, the general hospital, is completely inside an existing cupola. There will be no outside visible change at all. We're not planning on touching any of the exterior of the building at all. The antennas and the base equipment are either in the cupola or below the cupola inside the building. That's pretty much, for this particular site, it's a very simple swap of equipment.
Okay. So I know you were here for our last meeting, but again, I guess I'll speak for myself. Anytime we can conceal the equipment, I look at that as a bonus for any telecommunications equipment. So again, this is I'll call it a swap out, a replacement of existing obsolescence almost equipment with brand new. So it's the same objective. You're trying to bring in new equipment for better transmission and data capabilities.
Higher capacity.
Yep. Do you know when the work will actually start?
It depends on how long it takes to get through this process, and then once the 20-day appeal period's over, file for the building permit, physically get the building permit, but hopefully within 30 to 60 days of getting the building permit in hand.
Is there any work going to be done on the outside of the steeple at all? Or
Not
is
by
it all-
us, no.
All internally? Okay.
There is a lot of work going on at the hospital now. As you know, they're
Yep.
doing a lot of things there, and they may or may not paint or do something like that, but it's not part of our plan to do anything to the outside.
Good. Anything else you'd like to add?
Excuse me?
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, just that I think it's, again, we're working hard to not make new locations and use the sites we have, and especially sites that are hidden like this that you would never see.
Right, which ties back to the co-location, which is another thing I know I'll speak for myself again that I like to see. Okay, without anything else, I'm going to open it up to the public. Is anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone would like to speak in opposition? Opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Open it up to the board. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think this submission package is very thorough and complete, and I think
Thank you.
it's good to receive packages done as well. And it's great to see cupolas used like this, and the process of upgrading equipment doesn't mean that we're necessarily creating any eyesores or degrading the environment at all. I was just wondering, the relationship you have with the hospital, is it the hospital that is your landlord, basically, for this
Yes.
material? It is?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, I have no further questions. I think it's a great opportunity to upgrade the system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
No additional comments, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have one question. As it regards to the base cabinet replacement, I'm just looking at your handout here. You see you're retrofitting the cabinets? Could you just, are you recovering them or are you replacing them?
Replacing them.
It's a full replacement, and that's just
As before, the new antennas need to be closer to what's called the radio heads. And you'll see in the drawings that the shoebox-sized boxes, or radio heads themselves that used to be in the base equipment, are going to be moved up to the cupola and be right next to the antennas. So the base equipment will be replaced with the rest of it but upgraded to handle the higher capacity.
Okay, so just for a clarification on your detailed plans here, the retrofit kit is just the kit itself. It isn't, you're not retrofitting the replacement. You're just,
I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify, it's a retrofit kit. It's not that you're replacing. That's the name of the
We'll be
box
replacing
itself.
the base
Okay.
equipment, but we won't be going outside the
outside
space that we already
that particular
have.
area, correct. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I think it's, again, the detailed plans that you brought in front of this board is, I can speak for myself, is greatly appreciated in detail. It does save length and time, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we'd just like to echo the chairman's comments earlier on that anytime you can conceal these things is, I'm always supportive of that, especially in residential neighborhoods like this, and nothing has changed on the exterior aesthetically, so I support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question regarding the changes on the equipment. Will it at all affect, in terms of interference with the hospital operations?
No.
No. Okay, thank you. No more.
Thank you. Okay, well, I think based on all the comments I heard from the board members, I believe we're ready to vote on this. Mr. Clerk, have a motion, please.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, on ZBA 2012-17, 295 Varnum Street, seeking a special permit on the Telecommunications Act. Make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved?
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay, Shambu, you've been approved. Joe, do you have something for him to sign before he leaves? Okay.
Thank you
very
again.
much. Thank you.
It's 5:14. Great day. Thank you.
Okay, our next petition is ZB 2012-16. The petition is a special permit. The applicant is Ken Cole Investment Trust. The property is located at 1733 Middlesex Street. The petition is to renovate an existing restaurant and construct 2,315 square foot addition with a restructured parking lot. The petitioner is seeking a special permit to allow a reduction in parking requirements pursuant to section 6.1.5 of the zoning ordinance. Mr.
If I
Floyd.
could, Mr. Chairman, I don't know that you got the conditions from the planning board, but I wanted to pass them on.
Sure, I'll take them. Thank you. Watch it.
For the record, Mr. Chairman, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing Ken Kaiser, trustee of Ken Cole Investment Trust. Ken is with me tonight, sitting back here, along with our project engineer, Bernie Paquin from Dana Perkins. Also, Joe Lee and his son, Johnny, prospective tenant for the premises, his attorney, Paul Gardner. We're all here tonight to answer any questions. We're requesting a special permit under section 6.1.5 and subparagraph 5 of the zoning ordinance to reduce the required parking for a restaurant use at 1733 Middlesex Street. The property is zoned RR and consists of approximately 50,758 square feet. It's the farm, for you people are probably familiar with, is the former site of the Super Bowl restaurant. We appeared last Monday in front of the Planning Board for site plan approval, they did grant site plan approval with 16 conditions, which I've passed out. The proposal is to add an addition of approximately 2,315 square feet to the old building, which would increase the size to 6,153 square feet. In addition to the building, we're also proposing to reconstruct the entire parking lot and also add needed drainage for the area. And that was presented and approved by the planning board. The former site for the Super Bowl restaurant had 51 parking spaces. And the revised plan that we originally submitted had 70 spaces. But because of a change that happened at the planning board meeting, they asked us to remove one of the curb cuts on Middlesex Street in front of the building. We've lost 4 spaces. So right now we have 66 spaces. Mr. Paquin, however, feels that when he reconfigures it, he can probably get another 3 spaces. So we probably will have 69 spaces when all's said and done.
That's not, I'm sorry.
The what?
That's not currently shown on the plan.
No, it's not shown in the plan because this just happened last week. Under the City of Lowell zoning ordinance, the required parking for a restaurant would be 1 space for every 50 square feet or 124 spaces. Under section 6.1.5, subparagraph 5, the Board of Appeals may reduce the parking requirements in an RR zone for a restaurant use to 1 space per 250 square feet, which would reduce it down to 25 spaces. We're not asking for 25 spaces. We're asking it right now, I guess, for a minimum of 66 spaces, and hopefully we'll have 69 spaces. We have conducted a survey of other restaurant uses in the area, and I've attached a copy of that to my petition. And our use is very similar to every other, number of parking spaces that we're proposing is very similar to every other restaurant use in the area. But we do have more parking spaces than anyone in the area. Joe Lee, the prospective tenant, is not a stranger to the City of Lowell. At the present time, he operates a restaurant called China Star at 369 Broadway Street, which is a takeout restaurant. I'm on a diet, so I haven't tried it, but everyone says it's great, and a lot of his clients have asked him to establish a regular sit-down restaurant in the city, and he has found this site. His menu would be Chinese, Asian like he has at the takeout restaurant. He would be open for breakfast in the morning, lunch, and dinner. Monday through Thursday, his hours would be 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 a.m., and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. He says there is a great need, or people are asking to have Chinese breakfast in Lowell, so he's going to open it up, and I don't think there's another restaurant that does it. He anticipates that he would serve probably 75 to 150 customers during a normal Monday to Thursday operation. And on the weekends, he is planning, he would hope to have functions like weddings in the future. There's no parking requirements for employees because they all come in from Boston by way of van. He tells me that as part, and they can testify to this, part of the Chinese culture, when they come for a wedding or a function at a restaurant, they carpool. They all come together, 5 or 6 people in a car. But if there was a concern on the part of the board for parking for functions, we'd have no problem in providing valet parking on the site so we can maximize the entire parking lot. That's basically what we want to do. I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board has, or Mr. Paquin can answer them. He'll explain the site plan, and I think that Joe is going to speak, or someone from his restaurant will speak as to the operation. So, thank you.
So, Mr. Flood, could we just have like just a general overview of the plan as it relates to the parking. Just talk about the current condition, future condition. If we can talk about the pavement also, what the plans are for the actual site.
Bernie will do that.
Yep.
Can I go in there with the
Yeah.
microphone? or-
Yep. I think he's got to get you a microphone. Yeah.
Could we have the gentleman face it towards anybody might be here, that's here for the petition?
You want us to move it around?
Face it towards the audience, yes.
Face it towards
Why don't you
the
move it around so they can see it?
audience, in case there's anybody here for
We-
this petition.
We have copies in front of us, so we'd rather the audience see that.
Thank you.
This gray area is the existing paved surface. Presently, there are 51 parking spaces that are striped in the bituminous area. There's also additional room for parking, total of about 100 spaces does exist on the site that could be used for parking in the paved area. What is being proposed as this plan shows, a total of 70 spaces. These spaces have been rearranged to conform with the landscaping requirements for parking. We do comply with that requirement. All of these spaces do have the landscape shrubbery that is internal to the parking area. We do have a little bit of an excess of that green space, and this area right here could be returned to parking, which would be 2 spaces, and then an additional one here. So we feel that we could get the 69 spaces by rearranging the parking area. The existing parking area has no drainage system. As requested by City of Lowell requirements, we are regrading the site and making this area conform to the latest stormwater management regulations of the state of Massachusetts. This particular site, the new site, does conform. We have stormwater management areas to the rear, sediment forebay, and then an infiltration basin, which will make this site conform to the latest requirements. Those are the highlights. If you'd like, I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
I don't know if you mentioned it, and I just wasn't listening, but are you replacing the current pavement with brand-new pavement?
We would be grinding up the pavement and reusing it on-site and then repaving, yes,
Okay. And restriping?
correct.
Okay.
New curbing. We have discussions with the planning board. This will all be curbing, most likely concrete curbing, with bituminous around the exterior of the site.
So actually, there's 2 areas that you can either come in off of Middlesex Street or off of Edwards, right?
This is the new relocation of Edward Street.
Yep.
As part of the Walgreens proposal. That access has been provided to the rear of the property, as well as the existing access right here off of Middlesex Street. This is the access that would be closed right here, so that we would not be backing out into Middlesex Street.
So those are the 4 spots that the
That's
planning
correct.
board wanted to eliminate.
Yes.
You're putting what, green space in there, or?
Green space.
Yep, Green space?
green space.
Yep, okay. Okay, any comments from the board while this gentleman's up here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could, the Cape Cod berm, is that, you meeting the landscape requirements there? Is that a planning board condition, may I ask, or is that your own doing?
Cape Cod berm will be around the exterior of the site. That is the applicant's preference.
Okay, how about the center of the parking lot?
Center of the parking
Yeah.
lot will be concrete. And that discussion was held with the planning board, and I believe we satisfied their concerns.
That was a condition, Mr. Belanger.
Okay, I mean, I understand what they're trying to accomplish, but I think parking is much more necessary, being in the rear, not visible from the street or pretty much nobody. I understand it will look good, but if we're taking away, you know, 4 on the street, which I agree with, backing onto Middlesex Street, I'm not crazy about, but, you know, that berm, I'm not overly crazy about that either, because I think, you know, if this, I don't know which direction this petition's going to go, but I think we could really use the parking back there, more so than a decorative berm, and, but that's just me. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else have a comment?
I'd just like to ask a couple questions regarding the drainage system in the back rear of the site. So they're basically drainage basins for the parking?
There are no existing drainage structures on site. What is being proposed, actually what drainage flows presently from front of the site
To the back.
to the rear. That will be maintained. What we're providing is a sediment forebay and then an infiltration structure to accommodate that drainage. We are actually reducing the amount of pavement by about 4,200 square feet, and that's to provide for the stormwater management areas that are required. But there are no proposed catch basins, piping
Okay.
proposed on the site. That is the new criteria under the new stormwater management regulations, is to attempt to eliminate point source discharges, catch basins, and of the like.
How does the new drainage infiltration area in the rear of the site affect the large willow tree and the root structure there and the stability of the tree?
Presently, that runoff flows to that area now.
Yep, it does.
We don't feel that there'll be any change. The planning board has asked us to protect that large weeping willow tree
Sure.
to the maximum extent that we can. Excavation that will be done will be done on one side of it.
Okay.
The 3 remaining sides will not be disturbed.
And then in the case of a large storm event, these sedimentation basins and infiltration basins may overflow into the field?
We are decreasing the peak rates of runoff for all of the storms, the 2, the 10, 25, and 100-year storms, to that direction in all cases.
I hear what you're saying, but there's an overflow to the Edwards Field in the event of a requirement for an overflow?
Actually, runoff from the soccer fields flows onto our property.
Oh, it does, okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Anyone else have a question or comment for this gentleman? Okay, sir, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Johnny Lee, and I'm actually the son of Joe, and I'm actually the owner of China Star, currently at 369 Broadway Street in Lowell.
Yep.
And I just wanted to elaborate that we're trying to bring authentic style breakfast. It's like dim sum style, and that's right now not offered around Lowell at all. So there's a very large Asian community, and even then, it's very popular now with everybody. So we just trying to bring something new, you know, to the town. And as far as the weddings or functions, from my past experiences, it's always been carpooling, and nobody wants to go like, you know, one car, two car. Everyone's like, they come in one big groups. That's usually how it's done as far as parking.
Okay. Can you make sure you sign in with your name and address when you're finished? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'm going to open it up to the board. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the restaurant operator. The dining room that you have planned for the facility, I was wondering if you have a capacity for the dining room established? Number of
Capacity?
patrons?
Yes, it's 25 tables, and it should be 10 seats per table.
So
Should be,
250 people at full capacity
yes,
and 66 parking spaces.
yes.
So if you have full capacity, how many people are fitting into each car? About four people, a little over 4 people in each car, not including employees? Is that right?
Well, employees, we usually do always carpool, and we
Okay.
have everyone inside, like, you know, vans and everything. We pick them everyone up from Boston, and we come straight here.
Okay. I love the improvements on the site plan. I think anytime we can have an improved site is a win-win for me, at least. I think, and the idea of controlling the vehicular access where we now have Edward Street adjacent to it, we have a flow-through is a big plus. You have more landscaping, you have controls for the drainage. It's a lot of pluses here. And I'd hate to actually lose those pluses to gain more parking spaces. So I'm kind of struggling with the quantity of seating and the number of spaces we're providing. But I like the project, and
Thank you.
I think it's a good project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that was one of my questions as well. Has a capacity from the Board of Health or the city been set yet as far as number of patrons? I know that you're planning to set up 25 tables of 10 for functions or what have you, but a maximum capacity hasn't been set yet? Do you
That was set by our architect, and that's what we anticipate the
That's the
maximum
250.
be. And I know your concern, Dennis, but that's why we are proposing on our function valet parking. So maybe we can maximize a part of that parking area that Corey said maybe doesn't need all of those, you know, maybe able to slip some more in there in the event of a function, but.
I mean, I too I'm a big fan of the plan and the project as a whole. I think it's going to be a great finished project. Right now, it's kind of it's not dilapidated, but it needed some work. There are concerns. I know my kids played soccer back at Edwards Field. There's going to be some interaction with the people. Parking's at a minimum at that field. I don't know how you're going to deal with potentially people trying to park there during games and mornings, weekend mornings, things like that, especially if you're running a good breakfast. It might be somewhat of an issue as far as other people parking there and things of that nature, if that's been given any thought.
I talked to Johnny's father about that.
Yep.
He would not anticipate parking in the rear of that during the times when they're having soccer practice, because mostly it's in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't anticipate having that type of a crowd for breakfast, so he didn't think that would be a problem. I did had that discussion.
I mean, it's their space. I just think people may try to impede on that at some point. And then otherwise, functions were really my only concern. If you had a full wedding of 250 people, I don't know if something could be set up with the temple or some parking off-site where you could do valet. I think, not as a requirement, but something that for everybody's interest you would want to consider.
That's what we're trying to propose and do that if we have a problem, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And the temple's running on weekends too, so I don't know how easy that is to do, but maybe other spaces as well. There's other parking plazas with plenty of parking in the vicinity, so Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think it's a great project. I do appreciate the site plans and especially the drainage issue over there as it relates to the soccer field. Through my colleagues and their comments, the only concern I did have was with the parking with the soccer. As a former soccer parent, I did park there on occasion as well. As long as that's worked out with the owner of the company and the soccer people as well, I think it's a good plan. As my colleague mentioned earlier in his comments, as it relates to that interior berm on the parking lot, I know you're giving up 4 spaces on the curb cut and losing probably 4 to 6 spaces on that berm, so it's kind of a give and take back and forth. So I think coming to the board and trying to work that issue out is a positive thing. So I do thank you for that, but I have no further questions.
Okay. Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. For starters, this is a rather big-scale project for the area, and I'm familiar with the Petitions Restaurant on Broadway Street, and he's done an outstanding job there. It looks great, and it's clean. It's very nice inside there, and they serve excellent food. So I do like his product as it stands at that location. But Mr. Flood, Mr. Lee had alluded to an additional 100 parking spaces in the rear that's paved. Now, who does that belong to? I don't understand.
No, I think what Bernie Bacon was saying, that if, as it exists today, there probably could be 100 parking spaces on the paved lot, but we're losing a lot of that paved area in the back for the drainage.
So we could have as much as 100, you're saying?
But we have to take care of the drainage, that's.
The drain, okay, I understand,
Site-
okay.
Site plan review, so,
Yeah,
I mean, we tried to get as much as we could in there.
Yes, you've done an outstanding job addressing the stormwater drainage for sure. I commend you for
But
that.
what I talked about on the valet parking, maybe if there's a function, we can maybe fit more in there in the back, because the gentleman that's handling the valet will be able to move them out, so there won't be a problem. We'll have control over the cars at that point in time, so we'll probably be able to fit more in there than the 69 spaces that we have.
Okay. How about the lighting? Now, I see the lamp posts. How much, what do you have planned for lighting there, back there?
We are proposing shielded structures. They are shown on the landscaping plan in this area right here and to the rear.
Is it the larger black dots in the plan, or this? Oh, okay, okay. Okay, all right, that sounds good, but, now, what does the applicant plan for, does he plan on applying for an entertainment license with the License Commission, may I ask?
I know we're applying for liquor license. I would assume if he's going to have a wedding, he'd need a band there,
Okay,
probably, yeah.
because we do have residential, as you're looking at the property to the left, and, you know, I just don't,
There is one house to the left, correct.
yeah, one house to the left, okay, all right, and they're not here this evening, so, but okay, that's just a concern of mine for the neighbors that, you know, if at night, because we have problems, as we all know in this room, there's problems downtown, and I'm quite familiar with them of, you know, some of these restaurants convert at night into nightclubs and DJs, and that's where we have problems, and from the venue that they presented, it seems like they're going to be all about food, and I don't see that happening, but I think it bears mentioning at this point.
I think if there's, I don't anticipate any problems, but if there was, I'm sure Mr. Lee would work with them. And I think it's condition number 14 or 13, they want him to work with the soccer people for parking, and he's willing to talk to them. So,
Yes,
I
that
mean,
would
I've
be
already
nice.
had that discussion with him, so he's more than cooperative. And
Okay, that would, and finally, you know, I do like the project, and I think that, as I mentioned earlier, and that interior berm is, and even the other two that kind of adjacent to the building are rather unnecessary. I mean, we're eliminating 4 in the front, which I do agree with, and we're going to and, install some green space and some landscaping. So the idea, that I have is to dress up the front of the building where vehicle traffic and it can be viewed, not in the rear of the building. That does nothing but an additional financial burden on the applicant. So I don't see a point to any kind of landscaping in the rear at this point. I really don't, when he needs the parking.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but as it stands today, that was a condition that the planning board put on, and as you realize that if you approve this, you'd have to approve it with their conditions. If there would be a problem later, we could always go back and ask them to amend it, but I don't anticipate any problems, I really don't.
Okay, all right, well, that's, maybe the chairman will address at the end of the, after the board has spoken, but that's how I feel. I feel the parking is far more needed than a decorative berm and trees, to be honest with you. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also appreciate the site plan. It was very detailed and very easy to read. As someone who grew up in San Francisco and visiting San Francisco Chinatown often and eating dim sum, I'm really excited that you're coming here and offering breakfast. I am very concerned about parking. I drive down Middlesex Street quite often. It's very congested, and I really do hope that you could fit in, at minimum, those extra 3 spaces. And I also just want to say that I don't think, even though you've made the argument that a lot of people carpool, that we should contingency plan and know that not everyone will carpool. So I don't know if you could do valet parking, not even just for special events, but when it gets too full and it's affecting the adjacent areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess I have a couple of questions to ask Mr. Flood. So if I listen to everything the way it's been presented, this business is going to be doing breakfast, doing lunch, and doing dinner. They're going to be doing functions, weddings, parties.
On weekends, on weekends.
Just weekends.
Yeah.
As far as weddings go, are they traditionally during the day on a weekend, or are they held at nighttime?
Yeah, during the day. I mean, you want to explain when the tradition is on weddings?
Normally, they have their own ceremonies at their respective houses, and they do like a banquet type at night more. It's usually more around the evening time, nighttime.
But it's only 2 hours, correct? Like 2 hours?
Yep, it's only a few hours though. Usually they just come in around, the time that they, book it, and from there it's usually lasts like 2 or 3 hours depending.
So beyond the weddings, if there's any other type of functions, birthday parties, whatever, is that the type of business that you're looking for also on top of the weddings, or are you pretty much focused on the weddings? In other words, what I'm getting at is, are we looking at people staying there for a significant amount of time on average?
I mean, if there's a request for like a party or like a birthday party or something, we would probably host that as well.
Okay. Because we weren't given any dimensions or any layout of the inside, I was just curious, because you mentioned about 25 tables with 10 seats on each, right? Is there going to be a designated bar area?
Yes, there will be a bar area.
So people could go in and have a drink if they wanted to?
Yes, sir.
Eat at the bar, or, okay. So you might have a crowd that comes in for that also, that might stay there for a period of time. I'm just trying to get an understanding of your customer base coming in there, that's all. I like the idea. If you can, Mr. Flood, I believe you had a client in here before on Westford Street. I believe
Yes.
we did valet parking with,
Right, yeah.
and I just see that as a benefit if it can be adhered to by the business. I mean, I think it'd be great if they can have a full lot, but as you know, and other members have mentioned, the traffic on Middlesex Street, but also I don't think we want a bunch of cars on the side streets with the residents across the street and that kind of stuff. I know there's some opportunities in that area. Maybe you can have off-site parking.
Right, but until we operate, we won't know what the problem will be, and we'll be glad to work with this board in any way. I think he's planning a very large investment in the city, and I think it'll be an asset for the city. And I mean, any of you who have been in his restaurant, everyone says it's great, and he does keep it up in great shape on the outside. So.
Well, if you just look at the size of the land area that they're taking over, I mean, there's an investment right there.
Yep.
And I think we have somebody that owns the property that has a vested interest in the city also. So, I look at this as a win-win as far as a good business coming in and a property owner that takes pride in his neighborhood. And you answered the question about the bar. I was just trying to get a really good understanding of, are people in and out? I know there's going to be a takeout part of the business also.
I would think that would be the maximum, the
Yep.
two, but I don't think they'd get that many.
Okay. So I guess as far as conditions that I'm looking at so far, Mr. Flood, one would be, I'd like to have the valet parking as a condition in there.
On functions.
Yep. Yep. In other words, I guess I look at the valet parking as a byproduct of, if there's going to be a full lot, I mean, I expect the owner to work that out under his own conditions. We also want to have the condition that the planning board set forth, the 16 conditions included. Is there any other conditions that any other board members, or is there any other comments any other board members have at this
Yes,
point?
Mr. Chairman, do you think it's useful that this board take a look at the floor plan when it's, I know it will go through the building department and then an occupancy number will be issued. I mean, I don't know what they have intention for tables and chairs, but, once you submit a floor plan, they're going to let you know your legal occupancy. That's what it's going to come down to. You can plan for all sorts of tables, but the building department, along with the fire department, is going to dictate your legal occupancy. So, do you know? You think that's worth us looking into, Mr. Chairman? Just a thought.
Well, I certainly don't have a problem as a condition that we see the final, I guess through the building department, the final permit that's for occupancy that's granted, that at least we have a copy for our
We'll have to
records.
do that, and as you know, Mr. Belanger, we have to do it anyways for the License
Yes,
Commission
I
anyway, so we'll be
understand
glad to submit that plan to the board.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Another thought is,
Sure.
is it possible to revisit the capacity of the dining room in 6 months and just understand whether the parking solution that we're providing today is successful? And whether or not the capacity of the dining room should be amended to a lower number maybe in 6 months if we find any problems with neighbors and capacities on the site?
Okay, so summing up that, you want a
I'd like
administrative
a
review?
condition to revisit the understanding to decrease the parking to 66 or 69 spaces, with a condition that we'll revisit the capacity of the dining room at 250 people to determine whether or not that the 66 spaces or 69 spaces meets that capacity requirement
In 6,
in 6 months.
In 6 months,
6 months
like the last
after,
one?
after occupancy.
6 months from occupancy?
You okay with that, Ms. Flood?
If that's what the board's wish is, we will do it.
Okay.
We want to cooperate with
Yep.
the city as
Okay.
best we can.
Just want to make sure. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none. Can I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. ZBA 2012-16 at 1733 Middlesex Street. Make a motion to approve with the following conditions. 1, the applicant has a valet parking set up during functions. 2nd, the 16 conditions set forth by the planning board are inclusive in the approval. 3rd, a review of the approved floor plan set forth by the fire department and the building department after occupancy permit has been submitted. And 4th, an administrative review within 6 months for capacity of seating within the facility not to exceed 250.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved with conditions?
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Okay, Mr. Flood, you've been approved with conditions. Wish you the best of luck. And Mr. Kaiser, wish you the best of luck. And China Star.
They're pretty settled in there, yeah. I don't know what does that. Oh, it looks good. Looks very good. Yeah. Food's good too.
Next petition before us is ZB 2012-19. The petition is a variance. The applicant is Sharon Davidson. The property is located at 400 Beacon Street, and the petition is to rebuild a deck attached to the rear of the building within the side yard setback pursuant to Section 5.1 of the zoning ordinance. Mr. Flood.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I suppose all of you have seen it, but I do have some pictures of what.
Sure.
Okay. For the record, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing Sharon Davidson, who's here with me tonight. And as the notice stated, we're requesting a variance to rebuild a rear deck within the side yard setback. The home is located in a traditional single-family zone, and the surrounding area contains mostly single and two-family homes. Mrs. Davidson has lived there since 1987, when she acquired it with her former husband. The lot upon which the house is built was originally established in 1893 by a plan recorded with the Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds in Plan Book 9, Plan 18. I have a copy of that for you people. I also have a copy of the assessor's map, and I also have a copy of, it's really from Home Depot, of the design, so if I can pass those out.
Okay.
The home was constructed sometime in the early 1900s, prior to the adoption of zoning. At the time the house was constructed, there was a back porch, and you can see by the overhang on the picture, and stairs that descended into the backyard. In 1987, Mrs. Davidson's husband added a deck to the side of the porch. She has no knowledge as to whether he ever obtained a permit, but checking with the City of Lowell Building Department, they have no record of the issuance of a permit. She's no longer with her husband, and she lives at home with, she has two handicapped children. She has a son who's autistic. She has a daughter with spina bifida. Last year, she was told that the existing deck was unsafe. And so she hired someone to come in and tear it down. The porch and the deck were torn down. The contractor then went to the city to get a building permit, and he was told that he needed a variance to reconstruct the deck. As you can see from the plot plan I originally submitted, both the proposed deck and the existing house encroach within the side yard setback. I think the proposed corner of the deck, which was the original porch, is probably 1.5 feet into the setback more than the existing house. But the existing house is within the side yard setback. Because of the shape of this lot, it's very difficult to build the deck on any other spot. And I think she would suffer a substantial hardship if this was denied. The reconstruction of the deck in the same location would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good because it's been there for many years. And since the encroachment of the replacement deck is similar to the pre-existing encroachment of the house on the lot, I think relief can be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intention of zoning. It's my understanding, and speaking with someone from the building department, that if she cut off the corner of that section, she put a 45-degree angle, that she wouldn't even have to be here today. But there's the overhang of the existing prior porch that was there. She doesn't want to do it because it wouldn't look right, and plus she has the people coming, people using the stairs. So I think there's no question that because of the shape of this lot, this is one that you can consider for a variance. As far as the plan of the deck is concerned, I think it's reversed. The stairs are on the other side, but that's basically what they intend to put in there. We're here to answer any questions. Sharon's here to answer any questions, but I think it's been there so long. It's a single two-family zone. There's nothing in the back. I think if you look at the assessors map, the houses that abut are way away from this deck. So I know there's some people here to speak in favor of it. I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Flood?
Yep.
Could you, regarding the picture you gave us?
Yep.
The existing structure that's still there, what did you say about the height of the structure? And you were talking about an angle? Can you
No,
repeat that
what
again?
I'm saying is that if you cut off,
Yep.
this is what was there before, if you want to see this picture.
Yeah,
don't
can I
have
see
one.
that, please? Yeah.
But if you cut off the corner of
Yep.
if you cut off this section here, the same setback as the existing house, you wouldn't have to be here. A small piece of that
Yep.
corner. But it wouldn't look right and
So the,
clear it off.
again, referencing back to this picture, which
Yep.
basically looks like just an overhang there. I don't know, there are barrels underneath there or something, trying to,
I don't know.
at the top of the stairs. No, I'm just taking a look at the picture you gave me.
That was the deck before, was taken down.
No, I understand that. But is this being removed?
No, that's staying there.
So you're going to keep that?
Yep,
Okay.
that's
And-
staying there. It's part of the existing house.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. So it's built right in there.
Yep.
And is that just serve the purpose of is that an overhang, basically? Is that the purpose?
Over
of
the
it?
door.
Well, it's,
Yep.
yeah, it's kind of to the left of the door, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, the original door of the house was there, so. But I have people here that can answer any of those questions better than I get.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Some nights, it's not registering too fast.
Happens to me often, Paul.
Okay, before I open it up to the public, is there any questions from the board members, at least at this point? We can come back, but just want to, okay. Are you all set, Mr. Flood, at this point? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public. Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this project? In favor? In favor? Yes, ma'am?
You have to sign in, too.
My name is Martha Roby. I live at 394 Beacon Street. My property abuts Sharon Davidson's property. As you face her house, I'm on the left. Our yards run alongside each other. I've been Sharon's neighbor since she's moved in. She's had her deck for well over 20 years. It's never been an issue. Sharon's a very conscientious neighbor. She really maintains the upkeep of her property. She wants to replace this deck because, as you've heard, it's a safety issue. And if Sharon sees something around her property that isn't right, that isn't safe, she works to get that corrected. And that's all she's trying to do is replace this. It's also been mentioned that Sharon is the mother of 2 adult handicapped children, and it truly is a hardship for her not to have this deck. Her daughter has spina bifida and has, some very significant mobility issues. She doesn't get around a lot, she doesn't get out a lot, but she does get out. She enjoys springtime, summer, fall, sitting on this deck. It's really her way of socially connecting with her community, and I'd hate to have Sharon and her daughter lose that. She has another son that has autism. This is very important to them. It's also the second exit of the house, and as you know, every property needs to have 2 exits in case of any emergency, any fire. I'm concerned because right now, if something were to happen, they would only have the front door to exit by while they're waiting to get this determined and get something built back there again. So I hope that you really consider what this very hardworking mother is trying to do, just caring for her family, caring for her property, and being very respectful of her neighbors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor?
I'm Christine Massey. I live at 373 Beacon Street. Been a friend of Sharon's for over 30 years. The other thing I wanted to add, and I don't know if you see it in those pictures, but her bulkhead is smack in the middle to exit her cellar of that deck space. So having the stairs in any other spot would be very difficult as well because there's a walkway with the chain link fence exit right near the garage. So if she were to move those stairs in any other spot, it would be very difficult to get in and out of the cellar as well. I don't know if that's easy for you to see, but those stairs that are planned were there originally. Those specs were exactly done as the original house was, as the house was originally. Only the door was moved. Those stairs have been there for the entire existence of the property.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Yes, sir.
James Dolan, 151 Methuen Street, butter on the rear of the property. This deck has been in existence since Sharon has been there. She could have chose the other route and gone and had the deck put in by someone, and again, not pulled the permit. But she was trying to do the right thing, get it done correctly. And for the board to have any other recourse as to grant to this would be unjust. The reason that the board is here to help the little guy, and this is definitely the little guy. So I implore you, do the right thing.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to get a little history on this, the construction. I mean, we're going for variance with construction already in place, so I'd kind of like to understand. It's a little odd. So how is it that the construction is already in place?
From what I could gather in talking to the building inspector that went by there, the contractor doing the work had filed for a permit with the city. He happened to be going by there prior to the permit being issued, and some of the work had already started. So I don't know why the work had started already, but the work had technically started without the benefit of a building permit in hand. And upon reviewing the application, Development Services was able to find that the deck as proposed was encroaching upon the side yard setback. So as proposed, it required a variance from the board.
Thank you. I'm looking at the criteria here for issuing a variance, and I think that the hardship regarding the site circumstances with that strong angle in the rear of the site is easily understood. And I don't think that we have an issue with public good. I don't think there's any detriment. But the one that grabs me is the intent of the zoning. The 10-foot setbacks for side yards or rear yards is important, I think, for us to honor. And I'm not sure if the modification of that end with an angle is not something that we can overlook as a reasonable solution here, even though construction's already taken place, which is unfortunate.
I think everything's in, but I think you appreciate that there was a porch there initially before the deck was added to it, and I think it's in the same area that porch was, so.
That's a good point. It does seem as though the diagrams that we're looking at here indicate a 3-foot 8-inch setback, which may be somewhat erroneous if the original structure had, back in 1893.
Well, that's when the lot was established, but I think it was in the early 1900s when the house was built, but it was built underneath that overhang. That's where the porch was.
It does seem like it's probably not quite that tight. What we're looking at maybe is just the deck area itself rather than that porch area as the issue. But maybe as a condition that no further construction take place on this deck in the area of like a 3-season room or something to that effect, maybe would be one way of getting around this third issue of the intent of zoning. But that's the only glitch I see. I think that this is a worthy thing to consider here, that we grant a variance because it's a woman, a family that needs it, and neighbors support it. So, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm of the belief that it's more of an existing structure. I think the overhang of the portico, I guess, for lack of a better term, it was built. I mean, that's part of the house, recreating it for safety features. The deck itself, I don't think they're expanding the size of the deck, at least as far as I can tell with these two pictures. I don't have any issues with it. I think this is the neighborhoods of all neighborhoods in the city as far as people sticking together when you get onto Beacon Street and Methuen and Mort Ave in that area. So I'm glad to see that the neighbors are here to support it. Nobody's here against it. So I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleague that this does seem to be replacing a pre-existing structure. Couple quick pieces of information as it relates to the overhang. It's going to be restructured, right? We're going to have columns coming down.
The contractor's here. I don't know whether they're going to put columns, something to secure it. It's going to stay there.
He's got, I'm just looking at the original structure that you showed us. He's got 2 columns coming down, formulated.
That's what it was. That's what they'll be coming down then.
Even though he's moving the stairs to the other side, he's still going to support that.
No, the stairs are going to stay on that side. I think the plan that I gave you came from
I
Home
apologize,
Depot, and it had them on the wrong side.
Correct. So he is going to have that side cut out as well, coming in off the, on the right-hand side of the stairs. You're gonna have that?
Yeah, the stairs are coming down there. Same location as the original stairs. I think I gave you the picture of what was there before. Yeah, same spot.
Just as it relates to the bulkhead, is that a trench you got? Is that coming into the ground in order to come in?
Sharon, why don't you come up and speak on the mic if you... Yes, it's...
It's the cellar door that's under the deck, and it's a little pathway.
Now, just a quick question on that. It's a walkway with, it looks like you got 4x4, so it is supported. It's not just cut out into the land.
No, it's supported.
It's supported by 4x4s.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's all. I was just thinking of your safety. I didn't mean to have you come up to the podium for nothing other than I wanted to clarify that was a safe egress for you coming in and out of your basement. I do support the motion for your application tonight, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I was there this afternoon. I did go in the backyard and see as Dennis mentioned, I did take note that, construction has already been started, which is a little unfortunate. But overall, I do support the project. I see your neighbors are here. You must certainly be a good neighbor. They're all in here in support of you, so that's always a good sign. And, as Dennis mentioned as well, that, I certainly identify a variance here with the shape of the land. You certainly get a hardship when you're the only one on the block that isn't a perfect rectangle lot. You're at a triangle here, more or less, and that indicates a hardship in my mind. So I do see it clear to grant your variance, and I wish you the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also had the privilege to see the yard today, and I just wanted to say to the applicant, you do have some very supportive neighbors, and I did have some concern regarding the encroachment into the setback. I believe it's more for safety issues, but if there is not an issue from the butters or the following neighbors, I support it and appreciate approving it for hardship under circumstances. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Well, I think each of the board members have expressed, the reasons why we should grant this variance. First of all, I mean, the applicant has been there for going on 25 years. I think there's a lot spoken to that. Second of all, there's no opposition that's come before us. Again, we have plenty of neighbors that have shown up and voiced their support for this petition. I think it meets all the criteria for the prerequisites for a variance. And with that said, I'd like to have a motion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve ZBA 2012-19 at 400 Beacon Street for a variance for a side yard setback.
Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. Ahern?
Approved.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved?
Mr. Perrin?
Approved.
So Mr. Flood has been approved, and you've also sharpened up your public speaking skills, so you're all set. Wish you the best of luck. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, our next petition is ZB 2012-18. The petition is a special permit. The applicant is ACS. The property is located at 104 Merrimack Street. And the petition is to convert vacant commercial space on the second and third floor into residential units pursuant to Article 12, Table of Uses of the zoning ordinance. Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Chairman. I'm Jay Mason with ACS,
Yep.
77 Tyler Park.
Good evening. What would you like to tell us about your petition, please?
Yes, my client is Bill Sears. He and his wife would like to receive a special permit for the increased renovation of the space at 104 through 110 Merrimack Street. That space currently is 3 retail spaces on the street side, or street edge, and 2 floors of commercial space above. The space currently has 1 tenant on the first floor. There's a tenant being fit out also on the first floor, the second commercial tenant. The third commercial space is currently vacant. The facade of the building has been renovated several years ago. Mr. Sears bought the building about 8 years ago and is trying to put funds together to get the renovations that he needs in place, and before he can do that, before he can get his financing, he needs to have these things put in order properly. So that's how I was involved, that's how I was brought on board, and we've subsequently put plans together for the development of the shell itself, so that the shell has the appropriate life safety elements and can be subdivided in an appropriate code-compliant way. That permit is in with the building department. The other permit that I've helped him with and related design is for a second tenant that's currently ongoing as far as I know. I think they've started work. So tonight, Mr. Sears would like to apply for a special permit for a change of use. Currently, the building is in downtown mixed use, where the Artist Overlay District allows for, in my understanding, the changing from a current commercial use to an artist live-work type of space. So Mr. Sears has given me that design consideration and would like to change those spaces on the second and third floor to residential. So we've prepared plans to that effect, and we've incorporated that thinking in the sort of master plan that we put together for the shell. I have photographs of the alley, which I think was mentioned in the application as something that was worthy of or needed some more information. If you would like those, I have those. I also have a sketch, a very crude sketch of the improvements plan for the enclosing of that back alley space where the dumpsters are, where the stairs would be.
Sure.
I can bring those forward if you like. I also have plans for a couple of different schemes dividing the second floor into 2 residential units. So if, with your permission, I'll bring those forward.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And what I've tried to do is show that the 3 spaces, the 3 commercial spaces, can be seen in the back. This is where the dumpsters are currently, and
Okay.
where they would go,
Yep.
as you can see in the sketch.
All right.
So I'll let you
Yep.
have a look at that. And
Correct.
these are the plans, 2 different schemes. There's
Okay.
3 copies of everything,
Okay.
not the photographs of the plans.
Yep.
So
Okay,
I
great.
need to make those only copies.
Nope, no, that's fine. Thank you. If you want to just give us a minute to take a look at these.
Please.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add at this point, Mr. Mason?
Yes, it's critical with any kind of project like this, as everyone in this room knows, that you have parking that's appropriate and provide for safe and secure locations for cars. The owner, Mr. Sears, has had conversations and negotiate with the city and negotiations with the parking garage, and has 4 spaces set aside. It's my understanding that he would need 3 spaces for the units in the DMU, one per unit. So he has 4, but if he needs 6, if he had to, there are more spaces available, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So the communication that's from Charles Carney indicates 4 parking spaces, correct? I am
Yes.
writing to confirm that you will have allocated 4 parking spaces.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yep. Okay, anything else you wanted to add, sir?
I think the understanding is that we're looking at a change of use, and that's the reason for our appearance in the special permit. The building has a lot of space that's vacant and has been underutilized for a long time. So I'm sure that would be taken into consideration anyway. But I just want to put that forward as important, that he's got a space that is in a prime location, and he's interested in trying to make something happen there.
Okay. Did you review the comments that came back from the planning department? And I guess I'll specifically mention, as it relates to minimum submittal requirements under section 11.2.4.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay, and can you let me know why the minimum was not met?
I'm at a bit of a disadvantage. I don't have, my understanding was the conversation with Mr. Carlson was that tonight, if we were to bring photographs to explain the alley area and discuss the project in general with the plans that we've provided so far, that would meet the requirements.
Okay.
He also added that he'd like to see a list of benefits to the neighborhood, which I have here.
Great. So now I'll turn it to Mr. Jenowitz. Can you update us on what Mr. Mason just informed us?
I think what I'm understanding here is the comments provided from the planning department was more in reference to the site plan itself. It didn't meet the minimum standard for a typical plan requirement for a zoning board of appeals application. That was based on a number of items missing, such as topography lines would be an example. Height of the building is another example. The board has the capability to still consider it without having those on the plan if they feel as though enough information has been provided to them for the specific type of petition they're considering. So for an instance such as this, items such as topography where no changes are being made to the site or to the exterior building might not necessarily be needed versus something where the different uses would be generating a different level of trash service, where knowing where the dumpster location would be and making sure that's in compliance with other regulations would be something that's more important to have presented to the board. So that's kind of what those comments were getting at.
Okay, so I guess based on the comments, I don't think I heard anything that, at least in my mind, is deficient as far as the comment that was made. I just wanted to see what Mr. Mason was told, and he came back here with, not knowing what the discussion was with Mr. Clausen, between you and Mr. Clausen. I know I have a copy, you gave us a copy of the plot plan here, right? In regards to, one thing I did notice is in your pictures, in regards to the dumpsters, I noticed that whole alley there. I don't see anything that's behind any type of coverage at all. Is that status quo for that whole back alley, I guess I'll call it? I don't see any of the dumpsters. They're not covered at all. They're just freewheeling. Is that the standard practice back there?
I'm really not sure, to tell you the truth, what the practice is back there. I just know that blocking of the passageway is prohibited, so dumpsters aren't supposed to be set within the passageway itself.
Okay. Which could lend itself to maybe why there's no, they're not enclosed at all. In other words, that's usually a prerequisite that we have with any dumpsters. But I just happened to notice the picture Mr. Mason took. I didn't see one enclosure anywhere up and down that alley. So I'm not going to assume that that's a requirement unless you tell me otherwise.
Yeah, I'm not sure for certain. It could be that in order to have the ease of passageway behind there, that could be the case.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, also, there was another comment in there from, I believe it was number 1, just having the applicant explicitly say whether or not they're looking to have 2 units or 3 units. Within it, the application had said 2 or 3, so I was just looking for some clarification as to what the actual number of units will be.
Well, I guess I can sound right and say I was going to ask that question, but that was going to be my next question, yeah. So, Mr. Mason, it's going to be 2 units, correct?
No, the applicant would like 3 units.
So 3, okay, so with the 3, I kind of had to go through these pretty quickly.
And the floor plans I gave you show the 2 on the 2nd floor. They don't show anything on the 3rd floor. It's understood that
You showed us only 2 units, right?
on the 2nd floor, correct.
All right, so we haven't seen the 3rd unit?
Correct.
Correct. So I have nothing to look at for the 3rd unit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what can you tell me about the 3rd unit?
Well, it's a smaller I don't know it's a smaller footprint than the 2nd floor. It works out to something in the neighborhood of 1,500 square feet. So it has been planned to divide that, to improve that unit to improve that space to 1 residential unit. And it would have the same, it would have access to 2 different stairs, 1 in the back and 1 down the front.
Okay, so the, excuse me, the 2 units that you did show us, I see 1 unit, I guess I'm going to call it a 3-bedroom, a master and 2 bedrooms?
Yes.
Okay, and 2nd floor, 1 bedroom, I don't know, 1 bedroom through 3, but 2nd floor. And then the other one is I guess I'll call it a 2-bedroom, is that correct? No, there's the 3rd bedroom. So you got 2 units that both have 3 bedrooms in it. Is that correct?
It's my understanding, no, we have both plans show a single-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit. The right-hand unit in the scheme B, I think it is, shows a sort of office space in the back, but it's not intended to be a bedroom. It's kind of narrow.
Mm-hmm. So I guess when I see multiple bedrooms, that must mean there's multiple people living there. And if it's going to be artist overlay, I guess my expectation, because we've had the artist overlay district over in Western Ave that we dealt with before, I'm assuming, are these being built for families or for?
Well, no, they're only 1 or 2 bedrooms, so they're being developed for an artist use.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'm just not looking at this.
Well, I'm afraid I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because we haven't developed the plans out of schematic design. We just wanted to see if a unit would fit in the space.
All right.
Now that we have
Okay. Well, I guess if we're talking about 3 different units and we don't have the 3rd unit in front of us, I really have nothing to base a 3 unit on. I see plans for 2 units. If the proposal is to come in with. Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, interrupt you, but
can you address the board, please?
Yes, the 3rd unit is.
Can you address the board? Your name and address.
Oh,
please.
I'm sorry. My name is William Sears. Yep. I'm the property owner. The reason why there was no design for the 3rd floor is because the 3rd floor is existing. It was just, I have a permit just to upgrade the trim and put a hardwood floor in and whatnot, and turn, the existing areas into just residential. because it's basically already set up for residential. And we're not looking to develop the third floor. It's basically already done, which is basically changing the use.
Okay, but we don't have any plans of what we're looking at for that third unit.
Okay.
You're saying it's already in place, so, excuse me. Joe, can you speak to this, how we're supposed to entertain this third unit?
I'm not really sure, Mr. Chairman. I knew there was some renovation work that had gone on, as the gentleman had mentioned. I don't know how it would be considered as already built out if the use hasn't changed. It would still need a permit to change the use.
Right.
So
That's what I was getting at. We're not aware of any change in use, and
Right, there wasn't. It's just a question, we're trying to get a permit for change of use.
okay, but I have nothing to look at, so I guess my recommendation would be I guess I'll run this through you, Joe, if we're talking 3 units, then I don't think that's before us tonight.
The request could be as it appears, for 3 units. The applicant has apparently shown a floor plan for 2 on the second floor. I haven't seen it, with the intent of having 1 additional unit on the 3rd floor for a total of 3 units. Again, I haven't seen any plans for it. So the board could grant the concept of 3 units if the board felt comfortable going about it that way, or if the board wanted to seek more information and actually look at the layout, the board could go that route as well.
Well, the petition says to convert vacant commercial space on 2nd and 3rd floor into residential units. It doesn't tell me if it's 2, 3. I'm only acting on what was been presented before us this evening. So I have nothing to look at for the 3rd unit, so that's why I would like to see something for the 3rd unit. I just think it's fair and proper to have the presentation if we have it for the other 2.
The blueprint of the 108? You don't have the blueprint, you have the whole thing. 108 doesn't have a layout of the 3rd floor?
I don't think so.
That's what I saw in your briefcase.
I'll take a look.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I wonder, I will check my file. I may have sketched something that shows the area of that 3rd floor. We certainly have a CAD footprint of it, and if it would be acceptable to you, I'll check my file and see if we have it. It's my fault that this is not clarified. I thought that we're coming to zoning to talk about units, and I didn't realize that we're going to be looking at floor plans. So I apologize for that.
Okay.
We've got the rear issue that I was prepared to talk about, and I'm sorry I'm not prepared to talk about the 3rd floor, but if you would allow me just a moment.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be better to address from the podium.
Actually, the same questions up there, yeah. And, Mr. Mason, I assume this is the only copy you have, right?
I have an electronic copy.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So for those at home who missed on our conversation, Mr. Mason also submitted for the third floor the unit in question that I had asked about, and I'll pass it over to the board members, and it shows a two-bedroom unit. So if you can give us another minute, Mr. Mason, I just want to make sure everybody takes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mason, we're back. Do you have anything else you want to add at this point, Mr. Mason?
No, sir.
Okay, so if we're talking 3 units, Joe, as far as parking now, what do we need for spaces?
The requirement is 1 space per unit, so 3 spaces would be the
Okay.
requirement.
And based on the letter I received from Mr. Carney, you were being granted 4 anyway, so I guess you meet that requirement. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public at this point. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Going to open up to the board. Kevin, excuse me, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to understand the size of these units, square footage-wise. The criteria for the Artist Overlay District has a minimum criteria for the 1-bedroom, and I was just hoping we were maintaining that with the unit that on the second floor that's the single bedroom. What's the square
Yes,
footage?
I think the requirement is 700 square feet?
750, I believe, right?
750. Yeah, the square footage should be on the plan. If it's not, I check my... Those units should be in excess of 1,000 square feet each. The third floor is over 3,000 square feet.
They do seem generous, yes, I agree. So we are meeting that criteria, thank you.
Yes.
And I think that the building is a beautiful building to offer residential on the upper levels like that, in that location. I think it makes a lot of sense and meets the 6 criteria for granting the special permit in my eyes. So I think I'm very much in favor of this. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Dennis. We've talked about it a little bit over here ourselves, but I think it's a necessity for the downtown area to start to utilize some of those second and third floors that in most instances seem empty now. So I look forward to seeing projects like this come before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I do agree that this is a good project. My only concern is receiving the floor plan for the 3rd unit on the 3rd floor tonight, and relative to the application where it's kind of vague where you say 1 or 2, kind of leans itself to be almost an incomplete application. But that being said, certainly what the applicant is trying to do here is to, increase the residential value of the downtown, which is something we're looking, to do in the city. So just as a point of clarification, through you, Mr. Chairman, I guess through Joe, does this, in light of the 3rd floor plan coming in tonight, not part of the packet, where do we stand there?
I mean, those were materials that were requested. I guess just clarification through the comments. It's been noted that it was submitted this evening in the minutes, and the board can accept them, or if they found them confusing, could request that they were modified and brought further information. The big thing was actually nailing down how many units the applicant was looking to have, so that way things like parking requirements could actually be determined, and for later on, if the board were to grant approval, how many means of egress from each unit, and other requirements that might get triggered, such as sprinklers or other things like that.
Okay, so it is within our purview to accept the floor plan submitted tonight for the 3rd floor. It's just a matter of clarifying what the applicant is requesting as it relates to the "or" in his application.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Corey, before you go, when I had opened it up to the public, I should have mentioned we received one communication from Kathleen Marshan, being unable to attend. She's supporting the petitioner, but she also points out she'd like to share one concern which may have already been addressed by the architect, and that is the issue of noise. This particular location is ground zero for late night noise and disruption between 1 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. Thursday through Sunday. I would hope that the owners are aware of the situation and have designed noise reduction measures into their renovation plans. So I guess with that said, have you done anything with that, Mr. Mason, as far as noise reduction?
It's primarily a masonry building. There is some wood frame in the rear, and we haven't gone past schematic design plans, but we would certainly be happy to include an STC rating requirement in the construction assembly.
Okay. Okay, good. But again, I meant to mention Ms. Marshan's support for the project. Thank you. Corey?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. That was a concern of mine as well. I'm glad you brought that up, because with the the influx of residents moving into downtown, there's a little bit of a battle going on between, we're trying to find a middle ground between businesses and residents, and, and Kathleen makes a good point. Hopefully that noise reduction will minimize that. But now what I'd like to ask here is, what do you plan on doing with these condos? If this were, is it rentals, or are you selling market rate condos?
They would be for sale.
For sale, okay, okay. Okay, now, is there any criteria for market? I mean, I do prefer market rate condos rather than rentals downtown, because I see the direction in which rentals end up in 2 or 3 years. So I do much prefer market rate condos. But Joe, is there a criteria for artists because, I mean, the third floor looks to me like an artist, you know, has a large living room for an artist's workspace, but, I mean, I'm no architect, but the second and third floor look to me like more along the lines of residential condos and not artist overlay lofts, I should say. So is there any criteria when selling, or at this point?
At selling, not that I'm aware of. It sounded like Mr. McCarthy had asked a question about the square footage, and the requirement was 750 square feet.
Yeah, okay.
So long as the units were above that, then they're meeting that criteria.
Okay, well, I'm all for the, you know, if you're gonna, you know, I'm sure you'll do, the finished product will be a very nice project, and is there anything on the second floor at this point? Anything, there's nothing on the second floor? No?
No,
Okay.
nope.
Okay, well, it'll be good to see it occupied, but, you know, please be aware, I hope your residents, new owners are aware that, you know, they're moving into a downtown, and there's some noise in the late hours, and I know it seems strange to me to hear mention that, but this is what's happening downtown, believe it or not. So I think with the installation of that noise reduction, that will help, and I support the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually really excited to see this application. I actually used to work in these spaces when the teen center was there, so it's great to see this. Yep, it's great to see the space being utilized again. I did have some questions. I'm assuming the trash would be in the alleyway. Would that include recycling and also lighting, just for safety measures?
Absolutely. Okay. Yes, we have recycling in our design criteria, and the lighting would be required by code at a minimum because of our exit way, but yeah, we would have some kind of provision for eliminating that space. It is a recessed space in part.
Great. And speaking of exit ways, are there going to be 2 exit ways for each unit, just thinking of fire safety issues?
Would there be two means?
Two means of exits for each unit, or?
Well, not for the residential units on the second floor.
Okay.
But yes, for the commercial units and for the third floor.
Okay, interesting. I was reading some of the comments by staff about if this project does get approved, that we propose an executed lease be submitted to the Division of Development Services prior to occupancy permit. So I do recommend that to my fellow board members, and I think that's it. Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. So I guess, Mr. Mason, after we reviewed everything, just want to cover a couple of things, and then we can move to a vote. As far as, so I'm going to ask, and I'll go to Joe first on this. Can I have a condition that we're talking about 3 units? Does that have to be conditioned, I guess, is the way I want to phrase the question.
It should be part of the motion, really, to approve a special permit for 3 units.
Okay, fine. Okay. And we've already addressed the parking, so I'm fine with that. And Melissa had just mentioned regarding, and I guess I'm going to condition this, was for an executed lease at the time that it's signed, be submitted to Division of Development Services prior to occupancy, seeing as it's going to be used as a live-work units. You get all that? Okay. As far as the dumpsters go, I believe what Mr. Mason showed us, you know, I think it's, I hate to say it, but it should be common sense that the dumpsters will be located as close to the building as possible so they're not blocking any access. I'm not going to ask about screening because I don't believe that's, it looks like screening isn't covered. Joe, I don't know if that's something you might want to have TPD take a look at someday, but just based on Mr. Mason's pictures, I guess I'm going to accept his presentation of where the dumpsters would be. And meeting the criteria for the special permit, I believe the applicant has met each of the criterias. I can probably see one that it is not a requirement. And does anybody else have any other comments or conditions they want to apply before we take a vote? Yes, sir.
I think I neglected to give you my benefit list, and I don't know if that's appropriate or allowed at this point, but I do have it.
Your what list? I'm sorry.
We were asked to prepare a list of what would the benefits of this project be to the community,
Yeah.
to the downtown
Yeah.
district.
No, I'll definitely accept it if you want to. Can I get a copy? Do you have a copy of it?
I'd be happy to give you this.
Yep, great.
Mr. Chairman, did we address the noise reduction issue at all on the FAR's conditions?
I'm not going to condition that, but if you feel that that's a strong enough condition, that's fine with me.
Well, the applicant did seem willing to cooperate with that, so.
Okay.
Now, how about now 2 plans were submitted, potential for the second floor. Should the board choose how do you want to go about that? We have 2 that were, 2 potential layouts for the second floor.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the board is actually limited in their purview as to floor layout. The board can't regulate of the layout, interior layout. So even though they're both just kind of preliminary at this point, the board can't regulate, I guess, number of bedrooms, or I think a bathroom should be over here, or things like that. So I just wanted to make the board aware of
Yeah,
that.
so the plans are accepted as presented, so no condition.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mason did offer STC rating.
Yes.
As an option that we could put as a condition, an STC rating of 50, or what were you suggesting?
I'm afraid, off the top of my head, I'm not sure what I would want to recommend. I think 50 is appropriate and possible. I would like, if it would please the board, we could provide a number by email in the next 7 days and make that a condition.
Sure.
And just for reference, an STC rating of 50 is roughly what you'd have between 2 conference rooms for privacy for meetings.
So what you're saying is you want to make a recommendation or a condition that a minimum of
50,
50.
STC rating of 50 be achieved. And also, I think that the number of units should be not to exceed 3 units. I think the idea is to have maybe the second floor potentially as a single unit. Is that correct?
I think the owner would like the flexibility of making that a single unit if a tenant, if a prospect were to come to the table.
So maybe we limit the number of units not to exceed 3 units, so that we still have the flexibility of going with only a single unit on the second floor and a single unit on the third floor. Does that make sense?
Well, I think I asked enough times. I was presented 2, then we went to 3. It better not be greater than 3.
They've always been presenting 3 tonight, but it does read 1 or 2 on the second floor. So I think if we just had the condition read not to exceed 3 units, that would be clear enough for the flexibility the landowner, the building owner is offering.
Okay. So, Joe, I guess I asked the question about the number of units, and I believe you said we didn't have to specify the number of units. It'd be part of the motion. So can you clarify Dennis's question, please?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I would probably recommend sticking with one number or the other. If the board were willing to grant 3, I would probably stick with 3. If the applicant wanted to go down from 2 units to 1 unit on the second floor, they would have to come in and have a permit for that. And then if they, sometime down the line, again, were at 1 and they needed to go to 2, they'd probably have to come, if the zoning code weren't amended in any way, they would have to come back in front of the board to establish the 3rd unit. So it's up to the board at this point if they want to go with 2 or 3. If they go with 3 and the applicant later wants to change it to 2, they could come in and get a permit to convert 2 units to 1. That would just be a building permit with the Division of Development Services.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, any last comments? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Clerk, I'd like to have a motion, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, as it relates to ZBA 2012-18 at 104 Merrimack Street, I make a motion to approve the following. Approve for a 3-unit proposed tonight on the site. 2, execute lease by submitted to the Division of Development Services prior to occupancy permit issued for proposed living works units. And 3, a minimum standard of 50 rating for STC value.
Did you get all that, Joe?
I think so. It was for the 3 units, the executed lease prior to COs for each unit in the building, and the STC rating of 50.
Correct.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second?
Have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved with conditions?
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with conditions.
Okay, Mr. Mason, you've been approved with conditions. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, will we have something in hand before we comply with the STC requirement?
That's a question for Joe.
I mean, I can just send it to you.
250, you're gonna need more than 50. I don't know if you've been to Brian's Ivy Hall, but it's no conference room, I can tell you that. But, sorry, at least we get something, at least we get something.
I mean, let's come up with the 50 thing, yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen that enough time at the License Commission with the owner, Ivy Hall there, and the neighbors doing this and doing that. He's had it with them, the owner's had it with them. He's
Yeah,
trying
right.
to do this. All right.
Right, yeah. Till we complain about it.
Okay, our next order of business is under other business. Oh, I'm sorry, yep, other business. This will be for the minutes of April 23rd. Any questions or comments from any of the board members? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd, 2012?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd, 2012.
I'll second it.
Have a roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved?
Mr. Perrin?
Approved.
So our next matter still under other business, and this is ZB 2012-4, and the petition type is a appeal of the building commissioner's decision. The applicant is BPB Realty. The property is located at 19 Nesmith Street. And I guess, Mr. Leides, you're here to speak in regards to the applicant, make a request to waive the submission requirements of a plot plan from the standard zoning board of appeals application requirement.
I am.
So first of all, I apologize, Mr. Leides, getting you up there and then jumping into the minutes, but.
Oh, that's all right, but it's getting past my bedtime, but that's all right.
Okay, so you all set for the evening? You all set?
When you get to be my age, Mr. Chairman, you have to watch out for
Yeah,
that.
well.
George Theolides Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell, and I'm here this evening on behalf of the Roulette family. May I approach, and I did this letter about 3 weeks ago, and I just missed the deadline for your last meeting. I don't know if everyone has a copy of it, so I thought I'd bring it along. Yep. Plus, I have a site, the assessor's site, and a copy of the,
Yep.
wow, this is sensitive tonight, and a picture of the house, so you know what it is.
Yeah. Is this the letter of April 20th? Yep, okay. Thank you, sir.
So I'm not going to speak to the issue except to say what the issue is, and that is that the Brulette family has owned this house for more than 25 years. I'm here tonight, by the way. I don't know if you know, Mr. Brulette passed away not too long ago, and his daughter, Jean Lammy, is now more or less handling the trustee and the trusts and these locations. It's on Nesmith Street. They've owned it for more than 25 years. They've operated as a multifamily for all of that period of time. The house itself is over 100 years old. And recently, when they were trying to have some work done, I was reminded of when Mr. Flood was telling his story and talking about dates and getting work done and things happening. The building commissioner made a determination that though it's a five-family use right now, that according to the records he's aware of, it should only be a three-family unit. So that's the appeal we have made of that. I won't get into any of the details of that because that's part of what I will be presenting to you when we get that matter taken up. In the meantime, however, though, in fairness to my client as well, and I think for the best reasons for everybody's sake, I'm going to also file an application, a petition for a variance in the event for some reason this board should find some other answer as to what those number of uses. This is all about whether or not my client has a legal pre-existing use in that number. But when we file for a variance, as you well know, the general process is you have to put in a tax letter, a list of abutters, and a site plan. And what I encountered here, and that's why I sent this picture to you so you could get a better feel for the situation, what I encountered here is that there isn't anything about the dimensions of this property that go to the issue of whether or not it's a legal five-family or not. There's nothing in those dimensions. None of the dimensions meet today's zoning. So, but that isn't the issue that's going to be heard by you folks. The issue is going to be, at what point was this a legal number of uses to the property, and that's my job to show you what that is. What I found out is that it's going to cost my client, if I have to meet that particular requirement, upwards of $2,000 to provide you with that site plan. And it's not going to be of any particular relevance to the issue of whether or not there should be 5 units, 8 units, or 3 units in there. So I'm only trying to save my client some money. I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the board at any point. If during the proceedings the board thinks for some reason there's a necessity for a dimension or something like that, I'm not sure why, then certainly we could continue it and have that work done. But it just seems to me an onerous burden at this point to have to come up with that kind of money. In years past, I can say to you, and that's why I addressed my letter to the chairman, in years past, the process in the Zoning Board of Appeals was always that when there was a request for a waiver or anything like that, it was given to the chairman and to the building department, and the chairman, working with the building department, would grant it or not grant it. If he thought it was appropriate, he'd bring it to the full board. I was directed to bring it to the full board, and that's why I'm here tonight. So what I'm asking you is to let us continue to go forward if possible and not have to spend that kind of money for a site plan. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. I also might mention one other thing. When I first discussed this with Aaron and Joe, or I think it was Aaron in specifics, in order to me to file an application for a variance, you have to have an abutters list and a tax letter, which were already in the record. The problem is that in the meantime, the time has gone by, and as Aaron pointed out to me, the assessor's office records change periodically, and so they've they've indicated that I should provide a new abutters list, which I've ordered now. The reason I'm bringing that up is tentatively we're scheduled for May 31st. They're not, I'm missing that date. They're not going to get that to me fast enough. So I'd also, I guess, an adjunct to what I'm talking about, ask if we could also, regardless of what you decide about the site plan, put this meeting over to the first meeting in June. I'll be glad to answer any questions you folks have.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the board members. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One aspect of the site plan that I particularly enjoy seeing is how the site's being utilized regarding pavement, parking, green space.
We have no parking. I mean, there's parking there, Mr. McCarthy, but it's just basically like a driveway, like any typical driveway. This is a neighborhood, if I can, and again, Joe's telling me not to get into, I'm not supposed to get into any of the merits of the situation, so I have to be careful here. Just suffice it to say it's a neighborhood with many, many multifamily, an old neighborhood and very few parking.
I'm sure it is, but just to get a clear picture on any approvals being asked for, that we understand how parking is being offered on this site. And without seeing a site plan, we sort of are limited as to understanding that. So I see the need for a site plan to at least help us understand how parking is being utilized.
I can understand that, but I can say we'll never meet a parking requirement because, as you can see, there just isn't enough land there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Kevin.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm of the belief that we continue forward without a site plan at this point and require one if the proceedings deem it necessary down the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I concur with Mr. Hearn. I wish to continue to the next meeting with a site plan at that time.
Okay, thank you. Corey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to echo Dennis's comments that, it appears there's 25 feet of side yard usage here that, could, but I think it'd require a curb cut too as well. I think there's a curb out there when I did a walkthrough today, but I think there's something more to be presented. I think there might, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it'd be beneficial to the applicant to present a plot plan. Because, it might be able to show one or two off-street, and that could help the situation when we're talking 5 units. I mean, that's a lot. So, and in future references, this could set a precedent on the petitions where everybody's trying to, circumvent paying plot plans, but that's part of the process, unfortunately. We've all been through it, and this wouldn't be fair to the many petitioners before this project or after. So I'd like to see this project back in front of us in June. I will give it my highest considerations, but I'd like to see a plot plan included. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A little torn here, but I think I would like to see a plot plan as well. I think what's really important is that we don't set a prerequisite, and lots of applicants are asking for waivers for this. But I understand that the expenses are high, so that's where I'm torn. No further comments.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Well, I believe we need one also, Mr. Leides, and I guess this one is a little bit difficult for us to, we can talk about it, but we can't talk about the specifics, but, I really haven't heard anything as far as a substantial hardship in regards to this. I know you mentioned $2,000, and I guess, whether I think that's a high value or a low value, or I think that's subjective, and I don't think anything's been demonstrated as far as hardship around the dollars involved. I also think that having some type of plot plan / site plan, but in this case a plot plan, just to give us some parameters that we're dealing with that particular lot, as far as even the topography, would, in my eyes, be beneficial. So I would move that we do require one for the petition. So now I have a question for Joe. Joe, is this since this is the first time I think this has come before us, you can correct me if I'm wrong, are we taking an actual vote on this? Or,
Yes, the board should make a motion and a vote on whether or not to grant the requested waiver.
okay,
Grant the requested waiver.
okay.
Why don't I just save some time and withdraw my request? How's that?
Thank you, Mr. Leites. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Make it easier.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
There should still be a motion to allow the withdrawal.
Okay. Mr. Clerk,
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for the petitioner to withdraw.
we have a second.
Second it?
We have a roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approve.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve the withdrawal.
Mr. Ahern?
Approve.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved?
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
I don't think the May 31st date is in concrete, so, and obviously I'm probably for sure not going to make that date with a site plan requirement, so could we just now, do we need a vote now, Joe, to move it to the June 1st meeting in June?
No, we don't need a vote for that. It hasn't been scheduled for the May 31st. We were just saying that it was, at the time, we thought it was going to come up for the 31st, but
That's fine.
it'll come up for the 14th.
I'm all
Thank you,
set.
Mr. Leites.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Good evening. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any other members have anything else they want to discuss before make a motion to adjourn? Hearing none, I have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to withdraw, adjourn.
Okay. We have a second.
Second.
We have a roll call. Approved. Too long.